So I've mentioned before that the two universities, I mean, they're all bad, but the two that should be most alarming is if people came out of Harvard or Yale. This is not an exaggeration. This is where your secret societies are at, which is the mob. You really should just look at your universities, especially the major ones, Harvard and Yale, as mobs. That's what they are. And I'm going to explain how Harvard is. The Harvard Kennedy, the John Fitzgerald Kennedy School of Government. Harvard Kennedy School. Before I get to that, and the secret society that's called the Spunker Club of Harvard, that I'll do in the next video, I want to mention something. I took down a video, it was a really short one I put up yesterday, showing a couple of different red folders, because the red folder has always been associated with communism. But I got somebody in the comment section that I'm almost sure she reported the video, and so TikTok took it down, and then I appealed it and they put it back up, but then I deleted it because I think it's causing confusion. The red folder has always been a symbolism of communism, the Communist Manifesto, however you want it, it just is. So when Trump on January 6th was holding it and making a point in that video with Gloria, the Gloria song playing in the background, and he was making a point for people to see it, what people could say that it was the Insurrection Act and all. None of us really know for sure, right? But my opinion is, given that it's the red folder, I think he's saying he has all the names of the communists, because that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. These are globalists. Globalists are communists. It's the same thing. Same thing. They're all on board. John Kerry, Davos, UN, all of it, they're on board with the globalist, which is a communist agenda worldwide, which is communism always leads to genocide in history. So that's what my opinion is of the folder. And then when I had looked up Kennedy, because of other reasons, I found out about Joe Kennedy and that Gloria Swanson. It just struck me that song Gloria came to mind. And when I looked into her, she and Joe Kennedy were both Nazi sympathizers. Anybody who's awake knows about Operation Paperclip. It was all about getting the scientists that were doing experiments during the Holocaust, the horrible ones that should have faced justice. A bunch of them didn't. They were helped out behind enemy lines and sent to other countries to continue their work as scientists. And so Gloria Swanson helped that agenda. And Joe Kennedy, JFK's dad, he was a Nazi sympathizer. He made many remarks that were in headline papers, which is what hurt him. I mean, there was several things that hurt him from being president, because he wanted to reach presidency, but instead put it on his kid to do. But one of the things that hurt him was the remarks he made against Jews and more positive towards Nazi sympathizers. Because he had control of the Hollywood industry, he was able to decide the shape of what the culture would be, because much of our culture gets shaped by the movies, by the media, by all of that, right? By the education system. So this is how your mob got into these areas. Joe Kennedy went to the mob, okay, for help to get JFK elected. He did. That's a known fact. The fact is, once you get involved with the mob, you're there for life. And I would say he was part of his own mob. Really, probably going back to the days when before his ancestors came here from Ireland. But putting that aside, so JFK likely was shot by the mob. I mean, you can say it's the CIA if you want to, but really, what are they? They're just a bunch of henchmen for the mob. That's what the mob uses, as henchmen to do their dirty work. So, it would be Joe's fault, in my opinion, that JFK got shot. I don't know. That's just me reasoning it out. That because he was tied to the mob. That's what, you've heard the term Mr. Ed goes to Washington. Well, the mob goes to Washington because of Joe Kennedy. Not saying that they didn't have a stronghold, the mob, in many industries before then. They did. But Joe Kennedy helped escalate that. So I do not believe, even if Trump was friends with JFK Jr., it doesn't matter. The Kennedy's policies and what Trump's policies are completely in the opposite ends. Kennedy put in a bunch of regulations. Kennedy put in a bunch of government, everything against what our Constitution is for. Yet the Kennedys get this legacy of being so great for what? They put in more government. This is what conservatives and liberals have fought for so many years, is because conservatives like me, we don't want all this government. You keep people dependent on the government and they're never going to become independent. And our founders didn't want all these layers. JFK put in place a bunch of layers of government. He did. I'm sorry to say that, but he did. So that's all I'll say about that. But something more here is about the Kennedy School, the John Fitzgerald Kennedy School of Government. Most of our leaders, even from around the world, have come from the Harvard Kennedy School. They have. And then the people that were in government, they go off, they come from central banks, or go on to be in central banks, legislation, cabinet officials. They get all these donations from their alumni after they leave. And basically it's all of our government. So this Harvard and Yale should always stand out to you. In 2004 to 15, Harvard Kennedy School dean was David Ellwood. He was a U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Clinton administration. This is how you can always keep hold of the presidency. Like we the nobodies aren't getting a voice. We really aren't, because everybody comes out of Harvard or Yale. In our lifetime, every president except Trump came from Harvard or Yale. They have. And here's just some of the presidents from around the world that graduated from here. Pierre Trudeau graduated in 1945, Prime Minister of Canada. 1965, President of Mexico. President of Liberia, 1971, 1973 and 76, President of Mexico again. Mexico again. Prime Minister of Singapore, 1980, President of Colombia, Nobel Peace Prize. Let's see, Chief Executive of Hong Kong, President of Bolivia, President of Ecuador, on. And guess who else came from here? Besides Dan Crenshaw, people know who he is. He's in the House of Representatives. But Klaus Schwab, 1967. He is the head of the World Economic Forum, obviously. So do you see how it's just a closed secret society, all of it, and they use the universities to do all this, which is why I say the universities are the synagogue of Satan. And they had some people out of media that come out of here too. But so many. You can go online and there's a list of them, all the different presidents from around the world that came from the Harvard Kennedy School. So we should no longer put these synagogue of Satan universities up on a pedestal. And there's more to Harvard that I'm going to get to in the next video, which is their secret society, which is, I don't want to say it's the one of the most depraved secret societies. I talk about it in the next video. Harvard and Yale should stand out to you. I don't care how much somebody's doing something in a leadership position that makes you think, no, they're on my side. They're doing it for a reason. This is the mob. They go into these schools and they get taken in, and then they become a part of the mob. And let's face it, how many people with these big educations do you see that have a moral compass? I don't see many that do. I really don't. Because they've placed that they have a moral compass, and they have an ethical backbone based on their education, and that is not how you get it. That's how you lose it. Because I see most of these people as depraved. They've just been drilled into their head all this education, this higher education. I'm not against education. It's the higher education that's the problem. Because you're sitting in Satan's classroom for all these years, and you are never you end up just being mind controlled. So it's a problem. It's a problem because Harvard has been, that's why it's Harvard and Kennedy. That's how Kennedy, and Pritzker, he's another one, I'm sure connected to the mob families. And he put all this money towards University of Illinois and Northwestern's law department. So these universities, synagogue of Satan. But I will tell you even more reason why in my next video regarding the secret society of Harvard, which is the Spunker Club.